Presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Ohio.
We had a little rain earlier today. In fact, we had a lot of rain very early today, but all of a sudden everything's blown out of here, and it is a beautiful night. Tinge of cool autumn air here at Wrigley Field in Chicago. Reds and the Cubbies in the finale of this three-game series. Reds trying to avoid getting swept in the three-game set. And hi again, everybody, alongside Chris Welsh and Jim Day. I'm Tom Brenneman. Delighted to have you with us on this Wednesday night. We wondered if we would see Robert Stevenson back up here in September after seeing him very early in the year. The answer is obviously yes, and he'll get the ball again tonight.
You know, I think the numbers that Robert Stevenson posts are secondary to whether you see him make a little bit of an improvement each time out, become more comfortable on a major league mound, begin to control his stuff, which is what you have to do at this level to get big league hitters out. You can't blow him away like he did in the minor leagues. And little by little, I think Robert Stevenson's beginning to get that. He's got a good curveball. He's got a nice changeup, but he's got to really get his command under control in order to take the next step.
We know the Cubs can hurt you anywhere up and down their batting order, but it begins with this trio, and they're having real good years.
Well, Murderer's Row starts with the first batter in the lineup, and that's Dexter Fowler. Not only does he see as many pitches as anybody in the league, he gets on base, he can hit for doubles, he can also run on the bases. Chris Bryant has been a one-man wrecking crew for the Cubs against the Reds this year with 9 home runs and 22 driven in. And Anthony Rizzo, just in case Bryant leaves him on base, he's there oftentimes to pick him up. Somehow, as Robert Stevenson works through this lineup, you've got to be aware when you get to the top of the lineup, it gets awfully tough. Do not give in.
Well, if you want to know what's going on with Brandon Phillips, Joey Votto, Homer Bailey and company, look no further than our main man, Jim Day. He's going to tell you what's going on with Brandon, who's been rolling here lately.
Ohio is brought to you by Skyline Chili. Feeling good It's Skyline time. Wrapping up a 3-game set here in Chi-Town, Wrigley Field, Chicago, Illinois. I'm Jim Day. The Reds have needed to outslug the Cubs in this series, and they've yet to do it. Perhaps Brandon Phillips and his hot bat can lead the way tonight, because coming into tonight, Brandon Phillips is riding a 10-game hitting streak. Has been mighty impressive along with VOTTO here in the second half. During that 10-game hitting streak, .410 average, 5 doubles, couple of home runs, and 6 RBIs. It's his third 10-game hit streak this season. He had a 16-gamer earlier this season, and his last 57 appearances beginning July 6th, he's hitting a cool .350. That's the third highest in the major leagues over that span. Brandon in the lineup again tonight as we send it upstairs to the gentleman that'll call it the Tom Brenneman and the Chris Welsh.
Wow. Getting a V dropped on us here tonight, Chris. What do you think about that?
That's a lot of pressure, Tom, but it is your last game of the year on television for this season, so maybe there is a lot of pressure after all.
Let's take a look at the Reds batting order tonight under manager Brian Price. The Reds come up 63 wins against 88 losses. It'll be Peraza, Suarez back in the lineup after a night off last night. VOTTO bats third. 2 ball and left. Phillips at second with that hit streak. Schebler in center field tonight with Selsky in right. Barnard catching. Robert Stevenson, and John Lackey's been around a long time.
He has, and he still misses bats too. Last time out, he had 17 swing and misses up there. He's a guy that is just remarkable because he throws so many fastballs, and according to the radar gun, that fastball looks hittable, but I think he just plays the odds. Throws good quality strikes with lots of fastballs, gives up a few home runs, but he also gets a lot of outs.
Quickly 0-2 on Jose Peraza. Peraza, since the All-Star break, leads all Major League rookies in batting average, and this is a big reason why. He sprays the ball all over the field, and a nice way to get it started for Peraza, who since being called up is now up over 360 with that batting average.
I'll tell you, a lot of those hits are in the same spot too. He figures at some point he's going to get a slider. That's a hanger right there by Lackey. But Peraza has already committed himself to hit that ball the other way. A very controlled swing, not a lot of bat speed right there, but he's almost hitting the ball exactly where he wants to. That's a pretty good sign for a young player like Peraza.
So now to be a Eugenio Suarez at .247, 20 home runs and 64 runs, I beg your pardon, batted in. Got to keep an eye on Peraza. We know he can run. What about the running game against this combination?
Well, you can run on Lackey. I mean, I don't have all the numbers on the combination. Montero does not throw as well as does David Ross or Contreras. And they have stolen 14 off of Lackey this year. Cubs catchers have thrown out 5. So this is a good combination. I would imagine that the Reds will try to get their running game going.
Swing and a miss, 2-2 on Suarez.
A lot of times, however, on a running situation, and you see the numbers on Montero, he's had a tough time throwing runners out. You know, you're looking for a count where you're going to get a breaking ball. And the problem with Lackey, he doesn't throw very many breaking balls.
Well, he's had an unbelievable career as Lackey at the end of the day. He may not go to the Hall of Fame, but, I mean, there are very few pitchers that really have a better career than Lackey.
Very consistent.
Over 400 starts, 2,500 innings, signed a 2-year deal during the offseason to pitch for Chicago. This ball is blasted into center, but the wind is knocking everything down tonight. It is let up a little from where it was a half hour ago as they try to double up Peraza. Instead, they throw it in the dugout, and Jose will advance on to second base.
That came from the outfield, so they're going to give him third. You get 2 bases on that. He was already at second base, so you've got to retrace your steps, touch second base. And as the ball goes into dead ball area, that's Peraza ends up at third base. So Joey Votto now with a chance to get the Reds an early run.
Starting to make note of the wind. I mean, it was blowing probably 15 to 25 miles per hour, gusting even stronger than that. Maybe about an hour before the game, but coming off Lake Michigan, still blowing in, but considerably lighter than earlier this afternoon. Votto at 320. 25 home runs, 87 knocked in. Breaking ball near a strike. When you think about it, go all the way back to 2003 with Lackey. 2003. He has 12 double-digit win seasons. That's the second most in the major leagues. Mark Burley, 13. 10 or more wins in every full season in which he has pitched. He missed 1 year with an injury. It's pretty amazing.
Well, he's the only guy on the staff, the starters anyway, that has yet to reach that double-digit number. He's had 4 chances with which to do it. And maybe some of that has to do with the fact that he did spend some time on the disabled list. He missed 15 days between the middle of July and the very first week in August. Some shoulder tightness, but you know, how he throws the ball here the last couple of starts are going to be very important to the Cubs. They're struggling a little bit with Jake Arrieta, and you want all these guys. How about that?
Right at the third baseman, so staying at third is Peraza, 2 outs in the inning.
Now, they had a couple of strikes on him, and he just wanted to slap that ball the left side. You know, teams are not shifting on Votto anywhere near what they used to. Remember, they would pull everybody around to the right side of the infield, and people would say, well, why didn't Votto drop a bunt down? Well, that's no longer the defensive configuration for him.
So now Duvall with a runner at third. And that ball's driven hard into right center field, but Hayward is there, and a couple of balls well struck in the inning. Both long, loud outs. Scoreless first for the Redlegs. The Chicago Cubs, and he will lead them in back-to-back seasons into the postseason. And why not when you have a lineup that looks a little something like this? Fowler, Bryant, Rizzo to start it. Zobrist, Hayward, Baez getting the nod. Montero, Coughlin, and Lackey, the latter third against Man has been the #1 ranked pitching prospect, overall prospect in the Reds organization for a number of years is Robert Stevenson.
He's got to be awfully fired up. Robert has to be. When you come out there and you take the mound, full house, Wrigley Field, getting down to the pennant time. The postseason time for the Cubs. There's a certain energy in this ballpark. And the challenge for a young pitcher like Stevenson is to control your emotions, but at the same time stay on a finely honed edge. Control your pitches, don't overthrow, but give them the best you got. It's a tough combo to get.
Well, certainly control is the key part of that entire equation, and errant pitch from Stevenson hits Fowler. That has been his #1 bugaboo really throughout his entire minor league career.
Well, if you watch his delivery, it just seems like it's much better than it once was. I mean, he used to be once a very high-effort pitcher where everything was 100% on every delivery. He's really calmed it down a lot compared to what it once was. He's got plenty of arm speed for a good fastball and a good breaking ball. It's a matter of keeping your head still and commanding your pitches, and that's very tough for a kid that has been the hardest thrower in his league everywhere he's been until now.
Now Bryant tied him up there in on his hands at 93 miles per hour.
Yeah, there was a time that Robert Stevenson was throwing the ball faster than 95 miles an hour. And sometimes you take a step back with your velocity and you exchange that for better command. And that's really a good switch if you can figure out how to do that.
Stevenson became the first Reds pitcher to win his first 2 major league starts. That was going all the way back to the second week of the year. Larry Luber's the last guy to do that in 1993. Then he was sent back out to the minor leagues and was not brought back up again until the first week of September. And there you see the numbers in his 3 starts so far. His first start since coming back was his best start. It was 5 1/3 innings, 6 hits, 2 runs, 9 strikeouts against the New York Mets. And 1 on Bryant, and it's out of play. Many of you are quite familiar with the story of, Stevenson. He went back to AAA, really did not pitch very well at all. In fact, it came to a boiling point with his manager there, Delino DeShields, who publicly took Stevenson to task about his inability. By and large, was saying he's not listening to what we're telling him to do. He's very stubborn, and unless he gets it turned around, he is never going to be the pitcher that people want him to be. And there were a lot of people that took great offense to Delino DeShields taking those comments publicly. There were many, many others that felt like it may have been exactly what the young man needed. Gone swinging is Bryant. Don't know if there's a right answer, a wrong answer, but Delino DeShields has watched Robert Stevenson pitch a lot of baseball.
Pretty good pitch right there. He puts Bryant away with a nice slider. That actually could have been a changeup. It looks like it was a changeup. Came right out of the same arm slot as his fastball. I think DeShields probably took a chance with that because maybe coddling him wasn't working, so you go somewhere else and you challenge him in a way, and that used to happen all the time. In fact, you expected it from somebody who a lot is expected from. You expect a guy to respond to good coaching and to have good work habits and so on, and DeShields felt that he needed to push him a little bit, and I thought it was great. I mean, I've had managers say that to me. I didn't take it personally. I just went out and worked harder.
The ball getting away from the Reds catcher Barnhart, and Fowler will advance on to second base. The exact words, and I don't want to sit here and just paraphrase what DeShields said. He said, "This is what we've been going through with this kid for the last 3 or 4 years. Until he makes an adjustment, it's going to continue, alluding to his problems. It's not going to get better. It's on him. He's been told what he needs to do and what he needs to work on by numerous coaches and staff members. It's up to him to make those adjustments. If I was him, I'd be embarrassed. Those were the exact comments made by DeShields.
I guess it's kind of like trying to quit smoking. You know, ultimately, the time at which you finally do that is when you decide you're going to do it. And Robert Stevenson has to decide when he's going to become a major league pitcher, because he's had the opportunity and he's getting the ball on the big league mound every 5 days. And you can't ask for more than that. Reds have a lot invested in this young man. It's interesting, though, that he's really, you know, performed as well or better at this level than he did that in AAA this year. That might be a mental thing. I know you made a great point during one of his starts about suggesting that perhaps, you know, he didn't like being down there, that he felt that perhaps he should be in the big leagues instead of being down in the minors. And he gets up here and he's throwing the ball a little better.
There's a little roller. Rizzo runs well, and once Suarez momentarily couldn't find the handle, Rizzo was going to beat it out. A good decision by Eugenio not to throw it down the line. That'll be a base hit.
Another changeup that he throws down in the zone and gets the hitter way out in front of. This time he gets an unfortunate result. Guy moves pretty well for a big guy.
Sure does. Very well. And you mentioned last night, Bryant, the same thing. Bryant can really run. All right, first and second. One out for the cleanup hitter, Ben Zobrist. Ball one. 15 home runs, 67 runs batted in. And Zobrist a .263 batter.
Didn't Wade Boggs used to shake his hands like Zobrist does?
Sure did.
Yeah. Of course, the Boggs up there, you better cover that 5.5 hole, because there was a really good chance that ball was going in there, especially if the shortstop was covering second base. I'm talking about that one right there.
It's a foul ball. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Stevenson ahead.
I'll tell you, Stevenson's come out using all of his pitches here. I mean, he's thrown a lot of changeups here in the first inning. And it looks like he's got a pretty good feel of it tonight, which is a good thing.
Pulled foul again. May have broken his bat. He took a look at the end of it, but apparently not. Still a ball and 2 strikes. Great to have you with us on this Wednesday night from Wrigley Field in Chicago. Reds on their way after the game. They take a bus, for those of you that don't know, when they're traveling Milwaukee, Chicago. No reason to get on a plane.
2 buses.
2 buses. Players will be on 1 bus, and the rest of the staff, the manager, the coaches, the trainers, broadcasters will be on another bus and roll up about an hour and a half, maybe a little longer depending on traffic getting out of this area, and pull right into downtown Milwaukee, where tomorrow, Mr. Welsh, you will enjoy an off day.
I like Milwaukee off days in September. And we will be doing that activity out on the grass that you predict that we would be doing. Be a couple of groups out there enjoying the sunshine, we hope, and the green grass.
Two on, 1 out. And Zobrist making him work. That's the other thing the top 4 batters in this lineup will do to you. Really, really wear you down. 7 foul balls already on the first 18 pitches of this game. Talked about that 5.5 hole. ZOBRIST found it. And the throw is not in time. Good throw by Duvall, but it's 1-0 Chicago on the base hit by ZOBRIST.
Well, he finally got a pitch down that he could handle. And after 2 consecutive fastballs, he goes with a changeup, and you leave it up there around waist high, and that's just a spot where a hitter as experienced as ZOBRIST can almost direct where he's going to hit it. So a hit batter, a little squiver in front of third base, and a routine ground ball have accounted for the first run of the game. You still have to keep your concentration. Get out of this inning with no more damage.
When you're a manager of a team headed to the postseason, you're going to give some people some time off, a little bit of rest. We've talked about that the last couple of nights. There are some guys you wish would stay hot. There are other guys you wish would get hot. This is one that Joe Madden is hoping for the latter in regard to Jason Hayward, and maybe he's starting to show some signs. Reached base 3 times yesterday, and a 2-run home run here Monday night. And all of a sudden, in the last 5 games, has 8 hits and 17 at bats. It's been a terrible year. Paying a guy a ton of money as a free agent, and he has had a rotten year. But as we know, heroes are made in October. Tell you what, that wind doesn't look very strong, but it's knocked a couple of balls down already tonight.
You're right, exactly right about that. If he hit this a couple of nights ago, you're looking at an easy home run well up into the bleachers.
Let's take a look at the Reds on defense, presented by Ford. A rare start for Selski out in right, SCHEBLER the nod in center with Duvall in left. Regular group of late anyway, with Cozart still out, Peraza playing short. Barnard and Stevenson the battery, 1 in, 2 out, and here's Javier Baez.
They really thought that Baez was going to be the second baseman here, and then all of a sudden they brought in Ben ZOBRIST to take over second base. Baez has either been down in the minors or has been relegated to part-time duty. He's a guy that is thinking long ball just about any count, especially a 2-0 count.
Yep, Tardy. You know, for so many years, you used to have 3 levels of minor league. I mean, 3 AAA levels, leagues of minor league baseball. You know, you had the International League, primarily made up of Eastern Seaboard teams. You had the American Association, a lot of teams in this part of the country. And then, of course, you had the Pacific Coast League out west, which at one time, believe it or not, had a team from Hawaii. But
that was a Padre team. In fact, the joke was from San Diego, we're sending you up to Hawaii.
Did you play there?
I did not.
But, you know, when they consolidated to 2 leagues, I think it'd be safe to assume that, oh, well, Robert Stevenson's had to have faced Baez, the Iowa Cubs, AAA affiliate of this team for a long time. Iowa not all that far, really, from Louisville and some of the other teams in that league. It's not the case. Iowa's a member of the Pacific Coast League. And Louisville, in the International League. '28th pitch in this opening inning. See if Suarez can get rid of this when he barehand throws and safe the call.
Thought it was off the bag.
I think Votto's saying take a look at it.
Yeah, he is. The first thing he did was point it towards Brian Price.
I tell you what, if that play stands, that is a great play by Eugenio Suarez. If it stands. It's a great attempt if it doesn't.
Hard to see from that angle. We're not going to see at this angle either. I mean, the ball's already in his glove, so it's not a question of the ball beating the runner. It's a question of whether Votto's right foot gets pulled off the bag.
Well, it looked like a pretty good stretch. Bill Wilkie is a crew chief. And he's a home plate umpire tonight. He's on your left.
Oh, it's a good stretch, but it's one where the throw really didn't pull Votto off the bag, I don't think. I mean, close to it, but. Boy, the guy hanging in the balance right here is Robert Stevenson. Now we're giving you all the looks that we have. I would think that perhaps the home feed. This is from the home feed. Maybe there's another one that they're seeing in New York that we're not seeing. And I know that there's somebody sitting at home in front of a 60-inch TV saying, "Well, we can clearly see the answer. Why can't you?" Well, my monitor is quite a bit smaller and older and grainier. Here it comes.
What do we think? Safe, and it's 2-0 Chicago. Ball stands. So now Stevenson still has one more out to go, the 7th batter here in the Chicago first inning. And it will be left-handed batting, in this case, Miguel Montero. Ball one. Montero, 212 batters, 7 home runs, 28 runs batted in. Cubs have 3 singles, 2 of them infield hits, one by Rizzo. That's when Baez couldn't get the ball out of his glove. And then a great effort there, but this throw pulls Votto off the bag. The other single was just a little dribbler into left field that knocked in the first Chicago run off the bat of ZOBRIST. But Stevenson's problem started with the very first batter of the inning when he hit Dexter Fowler.
Boy, another 30-plus pitch first inning for a red starter. Same thing happened, I think, last night to Josh Smith.
Yep.
I mean, the Cubs work you.
Of the 31 pitches he's thrown, 10 of them have been foul balls. 31 was the number it took Smith to get through a lengthy first inning last night. 2-1.
Well, Montero's had a tough year overall, no question, when you're hitting 212. But he's had a very good month of September, hitting close to .300 in the month. He's hit a couple of home runs. And he's been very good with the tutoring of their young catcher, Wilson Contreras, who caught the other night. See, that's the kind of pitch right there that is a complete waste pitch for Robert Stevenson. He humped up and he tried to throw that ball right by Montero, and it never did look like a strike coming out of his hand. So that was a decision pitch on 2-2. Now he has to come in here with a strike on a 3-2 count. We'll see if he can get the fastball over or maybe the changeup over. This is where the location of the pitch is much more important than the speed.
Brandon slides from his knees. He'll throw out Montero, and that will end the inning. 34 pitches. 2 runs for Chicago. Defensively behind John Lackey tonight. Boy, they move so many players around. Bryant, we've seen him at third. We've seen him at left. We've seen him now at third again. Zobrist at second. We've seen him at left. Baez has played everywhere. Tonight at short. Somebody made the reference, longtime columnist here in Chicago. Chris, you and I were visiting him before the game tonight. Steve Rosenblum, and he said that Madden tells his players, said, look, when you show up for spring training, you better be ready to play some other places on the field. There's a ground ball down to third on the first pitch of the inning to Brandon, 1 away.
Well, doesn't it break up the monotony a little bit?
I would think.
I mean, really. I mean, say you're a right fielder, and every night you're going out to right field and you're not getting much action. But you've got to be ready in case the ball's hit out there. You know, then one day you get to play left field. So you make friends with the other bleachers. And balls come off the bat a different way, and you hear all the technical things about how more difficult it is to play one side than the other. But sometimes that's overblown. Well, I think Madden looks at his guys as ball players rather than technicians. And there seems to be a trend of baseball teams trying to break it down so specifically that they're not ball players anymore, they are technicians. And they do certain things right, they don't do certain things as well, and that's how they get graded out.
That's into center field. That'll be a base hit for SCHEBLER.
Boy, it looked like Zobrist was right there. I mean, they were playing him up the middle a little bit, and the ball gets by Lackey. And Zobrist just didn't get over there to get his glove down. So, and I'm not sure from there he's going to throw out SCHEBLER anyway.
So we had an interesting treat before the game tonight. You never know who you're going to run into in Chicago. We talked about that many, many times. So when they introduce the singer of the national anthem, turns out to a fellow named Joey Belladonna. Now, a lot of you know who he is. That ball's in the air to right center field, and that ball is headed for the ivy. On his way to third and racing around is SCHEBLER. He will score on a double by Steve Selski, and it's a 2-1 ball game. Well, that ball was killed by Selski.
Sure was. Selski had a hit in last night's game, so he gets a start tonight. We really haven't seen him play a whole lot. I mean, I've seen him take batting practice, and you see him take fly balls in the outfield, but that's really no way to gauge a player. That's a pretty nice swing. He really stays behind that swing.
All right, so now the Reds have a tying run in scoring position for Tucker Barnhart, number 8 hitter in the Reds lineup, .254 batting. 7 home runs and 46 runs batted in.
All right, Tom, for those people, however, who do not know who Joey Belladonna is.
And I didn't know either.
Don't keep us in suspense.
No. This was a guy, a very well-known heavy metal band.
And he did an incredible job.
What's interesting was he was a lead singer for a band called Anthrax. They were enormously popular heavy metal band in the 80s, early 90s. Anyway, we were looking him up because his version of the national anthem was just incredible.
Yeah.
You know, you assume a metal singer, it's going to be a scratchy voice and kind of a grunting sort of. I mean, it could not have been more pristine. It turns out that's why he was thrown out of the band. They had incredible success for a long, long time. Come to find out, they asked him to leave the band after 10 years because they wanted a different sound that had a little more raspy voice to the lead singer. And they've since come back together again. It's interesting. Boy, could he sing. In the dirt, 3 balls and 2 strikes. Now, do you have Anthrax on your phone or your iPod or any of that kind of thing?
I don't. I can tell you that I've heard of them, but I have not downloaded any of their music. No.
We know Joe Cornejo is a regular. He told us that of Anthrax.
Well, he'll be
Ethan
playing
Peterson,
it tomorrow morning for you on the way to the airport about 6 a.m.
Sounds good. There's ball 4 to Barnhart.
All right, now presumably with 1 out, Stevenson is going to be asked to bunt. And Billy Hatcher's telling him, all right, now bunt it down the third baseline right here. Lackey's not a guy that covers his position well at all. In fact, you may want to bunt it right back to the pitcher because chances are he's going to first base. But your safest bet is right down this third baseline here.
Beautiful bunt by Stevenson. The bare hand throw after the pickup from Bryant. Give Robert a sacrifice. 2 runners move into scoring position for Jose Peraza. See if Peraza can tie it up or even give the Reds a lead with a base hit. Fouled off out of play. Into left field. It'll score the tying run. What about the go-ahead run? Here comes Barnhart. He is cut down. Outstanding throw from left by Coghlan, but Peraza with a base hit to tie the game. You get one more look. 2-2 after an inning and a half. Since 2024 teams. Now this is very interesting. Take a moment to digest this. 24 teams have won 90 games or more, 95 or more, and won their division by at least 10 games. Now how did they fare in the playoffs? So 24 of them. Only one of them last year won the World Series. Is that not staggering?
That is. I mean, you could have won a lot of money on that.
12 of the 24 lost in the opening round.
You know, the conversation we had last night about those teams that are playing relevant games right up until the very end. Actually, right up until the day before, they've got to start playing a play-in game if there's a tiebreaker involved.
That is an amazing statistic right there, or a series of statistics.
That's Josh. Is that Josh Hall that came up with that?
He had some help, but
nice going, Josh.
But he was all over it. But that's amazing. I think you would lose a lot of money if you were trying to bet that with somebody, thinking there's no way it could be. 4 of the 24 even made it to the World Series, and over half lost in the opening round. Now, we're not suggesting that has anything to do with the Cubs, but that is exactly the situation that they've accomplished this year. They picked up last night their 96th win of the season. They lead the division by a whopping 16 games over St. Louis. So unless something happens, it's hard to imagine that lead would get under 10. And the Cubs would basically have to lose almost every game the rest of the way, almost. And the Cardinals would have to win almost every game the rest of the way. Slow roller that will roll foul.
You know, the Cubs are spoiling a lot of good pitches from Stevenson. And from what I've seen so far, the reason is that they feel comfortable in the plate. Now, he did hit Dexter Fowler to start the game, but that was simply a mistake. He's not coming in there enough. The times that he's missing with his fastball are up and away to left-handers, and that doesn't do any good at all. When you get a 0-2 count like you did at Chris Coughlin to start this at bat, that waste pitch ought to be somewhere up under his arms, and then that makes that changeup so much more effective. It doesn't mean that when you come inside, you have to really hump up and throw your best pitch. You just have to get it to your spot.
Line drive. It'll fall in front of Schebler. It's a base hit for Coughlin. Pretty evident that this right-hander Lackey is big country music fan. His walk-up music of the country western variety, as was his song "I Got Friends in Low Places" by Garth Brooks when he took the mound. Even you were singing that one, Mr. Welch.
Well, he is from Abilene, Texas.
Yes.
37 years old now. He was the football quarterback on their high school team. He was also the starting center on the basketball team. He didn't pitch at all in high school. The coach didn't want to hurt his arm, and he ended up going to Grayson Community College as an outfielder. That's where they converted him from the outfield to pitcher, and they won the Junior College World Series title. The Angels picked him second round, 1999. Made his debut when he was 23 years old with the Angels. With the Angels, the Red Sox, and of course with the Cardinals.
Won a pair of World Series titles, one with the Angels, going all the way back to when they beat Dusty Baker's San Francisco Giants in 2002. And he was a rookie that year. That's right.
He started and won Game 7 of the World Series as a rookie.
Indeed he did. And then he would later win a World Series with the Boston Red Sox.
I like the story about Lackey, that when he went to the Red Sox, he wanted number 41. It's always been his number, but it was being used by Pat Neshek. And Neshek gave him the jersey, and as a way of thanking Neshek, John Lackey gave him a baseball, a signed baseball. But the ball was autographed by Babe Ruth.
Pretty good present.
Yeah.
What's that baby worth?
Well, it was worth at the time he gave it to him somewhere around $20,000. Wow. I think it's probably gone up a little bit since then, since they're not making it anymore.
Oh, really? You're really going out on a limb there.
Just trying to make your last evening
I appreciate it very much.
as exciting as possible.
Absolutely. I don't get to ride the bus with you tonight.
You're going to miss out. I got some Anthrax downloaded and a boombox. We're going to really bring it back to the 80s.
Tell you what, you crank that up on the bus, you'll get my dad dancing, you get Brian Price moving around. Cowboy, be doing the air guitar.
I'll tell you, with a black wig on, your dad could be Joey Belafonte's brother.
Or Belladonna. I don't know about Belafonte.
Yeah,
but you're right. He could. And that was the first thing you noticed when he was singing the national anthem tonight. So he looks a lot like Marty. Wonder if we can get a split screen of that at all. If there's any chance to build that tonight. Kind of a little going away present. That's in the air for Schebler. 2 are out. Well, don't forget the final 3 home games of the year coming up a week from this Friday. On October the 1st, that's a Saturday. Come out of the ballpark for as low as $13. Reds and the Cubs, thanks to Butterbee's American Grill. The first 25,000 fans will receive a Team Cincinnati t-shirt. 381-REDS or visit Reds.com/tickets.
A lot of pitches for Robert Stevenson tonight out of the stretch position. In fact, all but 10 have been out of the stretch.
Bryant struck out his first time up. That is one of the 2 strikeouts that Stevenson has in the game so far tonight. Chicago a 2 spot in the bottom of the 1st inning. The Reds tie it up on a double by Selski and a 2-out run scoring single by Peraza in the 2nd. Straight up in the air, and it'll be a scoreless inning for Robert Stevenson. Selski is there. Look out. Oh, boy. Brandon takes it, and that'll end the inning. 2-2 game.
In Chicago. Jim Day, let's check in on a couple of former Reds who are trying to get into the playoffs with their current teams. It has not gone well for Jay Bruce in New York. Last 11 games, you see the numbers. He was pulled for a pinch hitter last night with the game on the line in the 8th inning and replaced by a guy hitting below 200. Johnny Cueto left last night's game in the 6th inning with a groin injury, but good news on that front. He had an MRI and it revealed a minor groin injury. They say that he will miss 1 start. But Jay Bruce, manager Terry Collins of the Mets, said, you know what, it's tough to pull a star like that. My job is to win games. He's been hearing it from the fans and the media. It's been a tough go.
Johnny Cueto was working on a shutout last night when he had to leave that game. There's a fly ball into center to begin the 3rd. 2-2 our score, and Suarez retired on an 0-2 pitch. You know, it's fascinating. Going into play today, you had the Mets, the Giants, and the Cardinals, all with identical records. 11 games left in each of their seasons. It has never happened in 48 seasons of divisional play, 22 years of the wild card. That one stung into center, but racing back, and actually that one got over the center fielder's head. That's something we talked about a couple of nights ago. You just throw your hands in the air, don't reach in there for it.
And then the umpire is going to go out and verify the fact that it is lost. And VOTTO's doing the right thing by running all the way around the bases. Because if that ball drops down and is playable by Fowler in the eyes of the umpire, then VOTTO gets a home run.
It's the first ball we've seen. It gives you an idea of how hard it was hit by VOTTO. We have seen some very well struck balls in this game, but this one stayed low, and this is normally how you get it to carry a little bit.
Well, this is about as thick as you're going to see the ivy. Maybe it's beginning to fade a little bit here in the September. A little chula.
It's how Ryan Sandberg used to hit so many home runs in this ballpark. Is everything had a very low trajectory and was never high enough to be knocked down by the wind. It would be line drives that would only get into maybe the 4th or 5th row of the bleachers.
But he put enough backspin on it that the ball wouldn't have a little hump in it. It would just kind of stay on that trajectory.
There's a tapper down to 3rd, and Bryant, strong throw to get Adam Duvall. Joey stays at second, 2 away. Anyway, what would happen, many have asked, if there was a 3-way tie for any playoff spot? There's never been 2. But if the Giants, the Cardinals, and the Mets all tie, what would happen? Now, some of this was determined by season series on who would play where and when and why. But the bottom line is, if all 3 teams tie, all 3, on Monday, October the 3rd, the day after the season is over, the Mets would play the Cardinals. Okay? Brandon fouls that ball off his leg, and going to be a little slow to get up. Let's see where it got him. Oh boy, that's gotta hurt. Brandon very, very slow. I recall doing a game, and I was there that day, in October of 2001. It was the baseball playoffs, and I was doing a game between the New York Yankees and the Oakland Athletics. Jermaine Dye of the Athletics fouled a ball like that off of his left knee, just below the knee. And much like Brandon Phillips, he went down, and you kept waiting for him, like we see with so many players every day, to get back up and get back in the batter's box. As I recall, there was a runner on, 2 runners on, nobody out. It was a huge situation. Dye was a cleanup hitter, fouls a ball off his leg. Down he goes to the ground, clutches his knee right away. The trainer rushes out. Was down for several moments. This time he didn't get up. He was picked up and carried to the clubhouse. He had fractured his leg on a foul ball.
Yeah.
That was one of those heartbreaking series year after year after year when Billy Beane's Moneyball teams would get to the playoffs and they could not get over the hump. Here's a play right there, almost identical to where you saw Brandon. That foul ball broke Jermaine Dye's leg. Boy, Matt Sigafus is all over it downstairs.
You're not kidding.
That's incredible.
Did you tell him before the game?
No,
that
I
you were
did
gonna
not.
Go there?
Attaboy, Siggy.
All-star season again for Siggy.
Tell you what. Breaking ball outside, and Brandon still flexing that leg.
And I can't believe that Lackey has not gone back down and into Brandon. Ever since that foul ball, he's gone with breaking balls away. Lackey will throw a lot of fastballs, but he'll mix them up between 4-seamers and 2-seamers. 2-seamers, he drops his arm angle just a little bit. That ball has some run that goes into righties.
We're in the top of the third. Runner at second. 2-2 game. 3-2 pitch on Brandon. They go away from him again. That ball stayed more in the middle of the plate, however. We'll wait till the next inning, by the way, to catch up on some of that playoff scenario. Should we have 3 teams tie for the National League wild card? It's a very interesting discussion on how it would play out. Well, let's see if Brandon can knock in that go-ahead run. Sore leg and all. Lackey will throw him out. 2-2 after 2.5. Over the second, that'll be the final game of the regular season, the Reds and the Cubs, and you can be there for as low as $13. Pretty good deal there. And thanks to Delta Airlines, fans in attendance receive a team photo. 513-381 Reds. Are you in the team photo?
The Reds team photo? I didn't get the memo.
All kidding aside, but you have been in a Reds team photo before. That's pretty cool. That's really cool. That lives forever.
Yeah. So does your lifetime earned run average.
But you could always make the comeback and try to bring it down.
That's what fantasy camp's for.
That's exactly right. Well, Brandon Phillips staying in there. You just saw him. They're going to move the shortstop, Peraza, out there in short right field. And Brandon is still bent over and reaching down for that left leg where he fouled the ball off of a moment ago. He doesn't have to move to get this one, thankfully. He's out there hurting. There's no doubt about it. But we've talked about it many, many times. And, you know, we're not making a guy out to be a hero. We know who the heroes are. But this is one tough cat now. I mean, at least at 10 years I've been fortunate enough to be announcing the Reds. It's not to say there aren't guys as tough that maybe weren't subject to as many injuries as Phillips. But I can promise you one thing. There's no one tougher through the last 10 years as a Red than Brandon Phillips.
I would agree with that. And we don't even know half the time. We're around the club a lot, but we don't even know half the stuff of what's going on because they keep everything in the training room. It stays in the training room as it should. So he's nicked and bruised. We know he's played through a problematic foot, like a turf toe injury all summer long. He's played through a broken hand before, a broken finger, and countless other injuries that we're not even aware of.
And the one thing about Phillips, you don't see him in the trainer's room all the time. I mean, you can walk by in a lot of these ballparks, not every one of them, not when the Reds are at home. Doors are closed, and it's, a much newer venue, obviously, than, say, here at Wrigley Field, where you walk in the clubhouse and there it is for the world to see. He's not laying around on a trainer's table for 2.5 hours before every game. Three and two on ZOBRIST. ZOBRIST a run-scoring single to get Chicago on the board against Stevenson in a 2-run first inning. We're tied at 2 here in the third. Coming up later, we'll have our Miller Time moment brought to you by Miller Lite. Cardinals lost earlier today, 11-1 in Denver. Cardinals will be on their way here, get in probably in just a little while, I would imagine. Have an off day tomorrow and open a weekend series against the Cubs. Final 3 home games for Chicago before they play in the postseason. The Mets in front of Atlanta 3-2. A game in New York in the middle of the 7th inning, and later tonight it'll be the Giants and the Dodgers. Chris, I've always thought about asking you this question, and I don't ask the question in jest. I ask this with the utmost seriousness because I have had hundreds of fans ask me this question, and I don't know the answer. I was never a pitcher. If you believe in the theory that repetition improves whatever it is that you do, and I think most of us would agree that that's true.
That's been
practice
proven,
makes perfect, so on and so forth. All right. Complicated delivery or not, from a human being that is throwing a baseball from 60 feet 6 inches away. When you have thrown hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pitches, even as a very young man, and it could be any pitcher, I don't mean just Stevenson. Why do you think some pitchers have control problems?
Well, I think that some guys never really find their comfortable effort level, their speed level. It's like a golfer that finally realizes if I swing at 80% instead of 95%, I can actually hit the ball where I want to. Like a bowler who wants to find that groove every time. And the pitcher's the same way. It's that balancing act between the highest effort you can give but still have your command. And the trade-off. But nowadays, the emphasis has been so much on throwing the ball hard that a lot of young pitchers, like Stevenson, the reason he was drafted first round is because he threw hard. Well, you always seem to revert back. So, he may have thrown a lot of pitches and repeated his delivery thousands of times growing up, but I guarantee you, most of those times, when he was rearing back and throwing to the plate, he was throwing it as hard as he could. And there were hitters that were swinging at just about anything that was coming up there. Until you get to this level.
Line drive will stay up long enough for SCHEBLER to get there.
I think he can learn a lot tonight. I mean, on a night you're pitching, all you really need to learn is one thing when you're watching the other pitcher. But John Lackey is a guy that any pitcher in that Reds dugout can learn a ton from. He has won 174 games in the major leagues, and he's lost 135. So he's a big-time winner, win-loss wise. He's been around for a long, long time. And he throws mostly fastballs, but he throws those pitches a little bit above the comfort level of most hitters. And there's a misnomer out there that says, well, if you throw the ball up in the zone, that's where you give up home runs. And that is that's a falsehood. Home run pitches are balls that are slightly above the knees to about waist high. When you start getting above the waist, it's been proven. I read a fascinating article today where a mathematician put all the different pitch information in that you can get off the internet nowadays. And he proved the fact that a 92-mile-an-hour fastball, 9 inches above the midway point in the strike zone, has a 13% swing and miss rate. A 98-mile-an-hour fastball below that midpoint has a 12% swing and miss rate. So what you lose in velocity, you can compensate for in command simply by throwing the ball at the hitter's weakness. And that's where Robert Stevenson needs to make his next step. Ditto that for, fill in the blank, Cody Reed, and all the other young players that are coming up. I'm not picking on Reed.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Is like everybody who comes up with a great arm, eventually, in order to make the next step in the big leagues, has to be able to command it. That's why Kyle Hendricks is so good this year for the Cubs, throwing 88 miles an hour. Why Dan Straley's had such a good year for the Reds. I mean, when a pitching coach tells you to keep the ball down, he's talking about below the knees, not below the waist. When you get the ball up, effectively, it's letter high. When it's hittable, it's thigh high. And, all the charts in baseball will bear that same thing out. And you just have to stay away from that part of the strike zone.
Well, this inning continues. We are only in the bottom of the 3rd inning. And it is a 2-2 game. Stevenson, the next pitch will be his 70th pitch of the game. Two on, 2 out, 2-2 game. And Stevenson is all over the place. That's nowhere near the strike zone. Second straight batter. He falls behind 2-0.
The hardest thing for a young pitcher like Stevenson, as I said, who's been a hard thrower his whole life, is to learn how to back off. Because that's never been part of his success. So you go out as a pitching coach, and Brian's done this dozens of times, I'm sure, and say, hey, relax, take a deep breath. Take a little bit off this next pitch. But he doesn't know how to do that.
Montero is a .212 batter
this year.
Three and one.
the one thing the Cubs have done very well against Stevenson tonight has been getting base hits with 2 strikes. In fact, all of their hits tonight, all 5 of them that they have had off of Robert Stevenson, have come with 2 strikes. Another one.
Cubs will have their second lead of the game. The throw is airmailed into the catcher by Adam Duvall. And a 3-2 pitch, 2-out single breaks the 2-2 tie by Montero. It'll be a throwing error on Duvall, allowing the runners to move up. RBI for Montero.
Well, look where that pitch is, though. I mean, Montero protecting the plate on a 3-2 count nearly gets that ball right out of the dirt. We haven't seen Duvall do that probably all year long.
So now they'll intentionally walk the number 8 batter, Coghlan, and load him up for the pitcher, Lackey. So they are loaded up. Now Lackey tried to bunt his first time up, and he struck out, fouling off a 2-strike pitch. And now Mac Jenkins will make the very slow walk to the mound. By the time he gets here, that clock's going to be 2/3 of the way down. Just now getting to the mound. 30-second clock reads 12, 11. Unforgettable games, undeniable greatness, and unstoppable drama. That's the story of the 2016 postseason in Major League Baseball beginning October the 4th. Go to MLB.com/postseason for a full schedule. Saw McGill last night. He's throwing in the bullpen. They're loaded with a pitcher up. First pitch swinging. It's in the air, should end the inning. Cubs leave them loaded, but they break the tie. We have played 3-2 Chicago.
by T-Mobile. What a final season for Big Papi. 36 home runs, most by a player in a final season. Talked about Dave Kingman last night. He had 35 in 1986's final season. 121 runs driven in, second most by a player in his final season. You got to go way back to 1920. Shoeless Joe Jackson also leads the bigs in doubles, slugging percentage, and OPS. And I caught some of the highlights of the game in Baltimore last night. He barely missed one, hitting one out. The fans were jawing with him, and he jawed back. And, of course, next time up, it's a home run and said, take that, fans. Yeah. What a career. Big Papi.
Well, he has been great with the fans throughout his career. There is no debate about that. And he's enjoyed every step of his final season. Well, what will the postseason have in store for Big Papi? His team now has you call it 4-game, a commanding lead the way it's played out most of the season over in that American League East. I mean, at any given time outside of Tampa Bay, you know, early the Yankees played so well, but Baltimore, Toronto, Boston all been jockeying for top spot. And right now the Red Sox sit atop the division lead. And the wild card there, very, very bunched. Toronto the wild card leader. Baltimore the second wild card, but got Detroit within a game and a half. Houston within 2. One away in the end.
Actually, it appears like there would be a better chance of a tie in the American League in the wild card than it would be in the National League. There are more teams really within striking distance.
And there you get a look.
Even the Yankees are 3-7 in their last 10, but they're still, 3.5 games back. They can put a rush on and get in there.
Yeah, they really stubbed their toe here the last week and a half. They were within a game and a half of the wild card. And now they've lost a game, 2 full games from a game and a half back. More importantly, or as importantly, a couple of other teams jump over.
Yeah.
Cubs lead 3-2. Reds bat in the 4th inning against a veteran John Lackey. And here's a fellow who knocked in the first Reds run of the ninth. And that is Selski. He's just crushed a pitch to the gap in right center field to drive in SCHEBLER. Swing and a miss, and that is the first strikeout of the game for Lackey. Two down, nobody on. Lackey has not had a perfect inning yet. Tucker Barnhart stands in his way. The pinch hitter standing in the on-deck circle, Tony Renda, and that is a pitcher spot Stevenson next. So decision's already been made. His night is over after 3 innings of work. Tell you you look at some of these young pitchers for the Reds, and I know they're getting their first taste in the big leagues. And Chris, when we come back, we're going to talk about this. But I mean, you're talking about some big-time, highly touted, very much heralded young pitchers that are having a rough go, their first taste in the big leagues. What's that mean for next year? We're back in Fox Sports Ohio. You know, we're talking about here Columbus Blue Jackets hockey. We kicked the evening off opening night. A little over a month away. Blue Jackets rewind at 7, followed by a special look at John H. McConnell, who brought the Blue Jackets to Columbus. It's all coming up tomorrow night on the home of the Blue Jackets, Fox Sports Ohio. So 3 innings is all for Robert Stevenson. He has made 4 starts here in the month of September. I beg your pardon, they're going to leave him in there. They had a pinch hitter standing there. But they will let Stevenson try and get 1 more inning of work. He has walked 2, 1 intentionally. He has hit a batter, allowing 3 runs on 6 hits. And you see the pitch count, 80. 1 pitch into the 4th inning.
You know, part of the learning process for Stevenson, and you have to remember that he's 23 years old. So the Reds had, and every major league team out there has in their minor leagues, probably even in A-ball, but certainly several in Double-A who are 23 years old. So part of the learning process for a young pitcher is to come up here and compete the last month of the season, because that major league season is 1 month longer than is the minor league season. So, you know, whereas you're normally ready to shut your body down on September the 1st, you've got another 30 days to go. And sometimes that takes an adjustment. And oftentimes that adjustment is to back off a little bit of your training during the middle of the season rather than go at it so hard, because really the only thing that counts is what happens when you get the ball every 5 days.
High drive into right center, and Fowler plays long ball.
That's what I mean by the home run zone right there. Somewhere between the thighs and the belt. That's the pitch that goes the long ball, not the pitch that's up in the zone.
All 7 Chicago hits tonight have come with 2 strikes in the at-bat facing Stevenson. It's 36 home runs now for the Cubs this season, and there are still 3 games to play. 3.5 if you include tonight. The most the Cubs have ever hit in a single year against the Cincinnati Reds. We brought up last night. So far, anyway, that's not the most ever allowed in a season by a Reds team to an opponent. They allowed 38 to the Milwaukee Braves in 1957, and also the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1954. Dodgers a year before that hit 37 against the Reds.
Now, weren't there fewer teams in the league
Yep.
then, and you played those teams more often than you do now?
And fewer total number of games. But because of the fewer number of teams you played, yes, more games against every opponent. I think now it's either 18 or 19. Back in those days, it was 20, 21, 22, somewhere in that neighborhood.
must have been a cross-up right there because Barnhart ran running right out through the mound. It was a dandy pitch by Stevenson. But I think Barnhart was looking for something else right there. He was lucky to get the glove on it.
How about that? Rizzo saying, you got to be kidding me.
And in a couple of years, he'll get so used to that that he won't be saying that anymore. And that is the new normal.
You know, I read an article based on an interview that was done earlier today, or maybe yesterday, I guess it was, with Ohio State football coach Urban Meyer. We've had him come up to the booth before and talk about his coaching career, and of course he has a lot of family in Cincinnati, but it's something that was sparked about what you were talking earlier in the game about, and talking about young pitchers and how they're recruited because, or they're scouted because they throw the ball 93, 95, 97 miles an hour. Urban Meyer was asked the question, what exactly do you look for in your starting quarterback when you're recruiting a quarterback? And you can make an argument in the history of college football, in the history of the game. I don't care if you're talking about Nick Saban or Bear Bryant or Joe Paterno or Woody Hayes or Bo Schembechler. Even at the very ripe young age at 52, I don't know if there's ever been a college head football coach that has been better with quarterbacks than Urban Meyer, whether it was at Bowling Green, whether it was Alex Smith at Utah, you know, Chris Leak, Tim Tebow, Braxton Miller, J.T. Barrett, right on down the line. Got out of play. But ultimately what I'm getting at is this. He was asked the top 5 things he looks for. Guess what the last one of the 5 was?
Physical ability.
Throwing.
Well, you got the kind of running backs he has, then.
No, they still throw it pretty good.
Yeah,
but the point I'm making is that is the first thing that a lot of people think you have to have in a quarterback. There's a line drive into left center field, and that is a base hit. So the inning will continue. The point I'm making is the other things he said were, number 1, without a doubt, competitor. Number 2, toughness. Number 3, intelligence. Number 4, leadership. Then number 5, throwing. We can work on the throwing and the accuracy of the throwing.
Well, that might be true in football, but you can't teach a kid who throws 85 to throw 95.
Can't argue with that, but you talk about it more than anybody in the world.
Yeah,
there are a lot of guys throwing 95 that aren't getting people out.
Or even in the big leagues.
This will be our Skyline Chili call to the bullpen. Reds are
presented by authority of the Cincinnati Reds. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
We're back in Chicago at Wrigley Field on the north side of the city. And the night is over for Robert Stevenson. He lasts 3 2/3 innings here tonight. Gives up 8 hits, walks 2, 1 intentionally, hits a batter, strikes out a pair, and so far he's been charged with 4 runs after the home run to begin this inning by Fowler. And now it'll be Matt McGill. Saw him last night.
Yeah, originally with the Dodgers. Matt McGill, 26 years old, from Simi Valley, California.
Stevenson not only walked 2, he also hit a batter.
You know, had Stevenson be able to throw more strikes in that first inning the way that Tim Adelman did, I thought Adelman did a great job right from the very beginning of the game. In his start a couple of days ago, he went right 1, 2, 3 through the first inning and got really all the nerves out of his system by getting through that lineup at that point. When you hit the leadoff man, then you get a strikeout. And then he was kind of victimized. A couple of squibbers, a ball that went through the hole, but he didn't throw enough strikes, especially on the inner part of the plate, to get those hitters off his other pitches. And that's why they fouled so many off.
There's a base hit into right center field. The runner will advance on first to third. So now Javier Baez, runners at first and third, and first pitch swinging is Baez. Should end the inning, and it does. So McGill comes in and allows a hit, but prevents any further damage. Cubs get a run and lead by a pair. Brought to you by your local Ford dealer. Ford, go further. And by Cincinnati Children's, changing the outcome together. Amen to that. Lived up to its reputation earlier today, not so much now, as the windy city. Strong winds, pouring rain very early this morning. Everything flew out of here. It was bright and sunny for about an hour and a half. In came the clouds and the wind again. It rained right up until about, I don't know, hour and a half before game time. And has turned into a spectacular night. 4-2 Chicago. John Lackey on the mound. And it's in there, strike one to the pinch hitter Tony Renda. So McGill gives him 1/3 of an inning. He allows a hit, no runs. Close the book on Robert Stevenson. It's 3 2/3 innings, 8 hits, 4 runs. All 8 hits, by the way, for the Cubs. Every one of them came with 2 strikes in the at-bat. Now, what does that say to you, Chris Welsh? You were good enough to get the 2 strikes, or does it say anything at all?
Well, you got to give a little bit of a tip of your hat to the Cubs. And not all those balls were exactly hit hard. It wasn't like they were knocking the fences down. Obviously, the home run that Fowler hit was a long and well hit ball. Well, they found the holes with a few. It just seemed like Stevenson did not have a pitch to put him away, and I think the Cubs felt comfortable up there with 2 strikes. But they were hitting the ball the other way, and I think he needs to come inside a little bit more. But that's all about command.
Good pitch up and in on a 2-strike pitch right there. Tantalizes the batter. And the strikeout for Lackey.
And Lackey doesn't have the kind of velocity that you say wow to, but there's that swing and miss percent on a 92-mile-an-hour fastball, 9 inches above the center height of the zone. That's your spot.
You know, it seems like we always keep coming back to things that are said about baseball by people in baseball that have dedicated their lives to baseball and to working in the game. And then what they do in theory as opposed to what they do in practice. You have given as good as an example scientific data that was conducted by a scientist of one guy throwing 98 and where it's located and another guy throwing 92 where it's located. Yet baseball and those in it, everybody will tell you, do I want command or I want velocity? You talk to every pitching coach in the league, they'll tell you, I want command. I want a guy that can locate the fastball in and out, up and down. And yet what do those that run the game continue to go for? Well, they go for the 95 instead of the 92.
I think you're going to see a trend backwards the other way, to be honest with you. Now, not necessarily in relievers, because those relievers that we've seen over the last few years, it seems like every team has a guy that can pitch the 7th who throws 96, and the guy that pitches the 8th throws 98, right, and then the closer throws 100.
Yep.
But, you know, it's really more important where you throw it. If you can combine 96 up around the letters every time, you're not going to get hurt up there. You just think back when all the hard hit balls that Aroldis Chapman gave up. Those are pitches that were above the knees but below the waist. No one ever caught up or still catches up with his high fastball.
Oh, you're right about that. It just seems like, though, we see more and more pitchers, and I don't mean the Reds pitchers, I mean we see more and more pitchers in baseball that they're obviously throwing harder than they ever have. And there seems to be a lot more struggling with command going on. And you can't use strikeouts all necessarily as a barometer. 1-2-3 inning for Lackey, middle of the 5th. Cubs lead by a pair. About earlier. Listen to this for a minute.
Came through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave?
Now,
Very nice.
the one thing that I noticed about Joey Belladonna is he had a tan very much like your dad. And I'm thinking, well, if we could put a black wig on Marty Brennaman, I mean, those guys could be brothers, at least cousins.
I think brothers. I think you're on to something. You said
I've
it right
seen Marty
away.
with that face before. In fact, he made that face at dinner tonight.
Very well done. Joey Belladonna, the former lead singer of Anthrax, singing the national anthem, and perhaps separated at birth with Franchester Martin Brennaman Jr. Now, you know, we brought up earlier that we'd like to see a split screen, okay, of, you know, Marty and Mr. Belladonna. Now, apparently, a number of our viewers out there have requested, and I'm assuming somewhere on social media, that they think you look like the former guitarist of Black Sabbath. Tony Iommi, guitarist of Black Sabbath, of course, the front man with Ozzy Osbourne there. And there is certainly a striking resemblance.
Well, you've never seen us both in the same place at the same time, right?
No, we have not. That is really good. Tony Iommi.
It's a nice stash.
From Black Sabbath. Well, the Reds are going to their bullpen yet again, and here's a young man that's had a really, really nice go of it since he was healthy enough to pitch, and that, of course, is Michael Lorenzen.
You know, Michael Lorenzen in spring training this year, before he was injured, before that elbow began to act up on him, was just dead set on being a starter. I mean, that's all he wanted to do. He worked very hard over the winter. I mean, his conditioning regimen is just second to none as far as demanding as it is. And you can tell by look at the arms on this guy. But I think he's settled in to a spot where he's really comfortable in this bullpen. His stuff is a little bit better. He doesn't have to worry about seeing the same hitter 2 or 3 times in the same ball game. That doesn't mean that somewhere down the road he doesn't become a starter. I think right now he can serve the team best out of the bullpen because the Reds need quality arms like Michael Lorenzen to close out games. And he's been usually a guy that pitches in games in which the Reds are winning. They haven't had that many chances recently.
Chris Coghlan, a count of 2-2, and that's low and in. 3 balls, 2 strikes after a base hit by Montero to begin the inning. 4-2 Chicago. We're in the last of the 5th.
Looked it up, Tom, because sometimes you say something you wonder whether you're just remembering anecdotal evidence or not. But for Michael Lorenzen, they keep a record of the wins and losses that the team has in games in which you appear. And Lorenzen is 2-1 personally on the season, and the team is 15-16. So He's been pitching a lot of games in which the Reds have won.
Here's ball 4 to Coghlan, single and a walk to start things for the Cubs here in the bottom of the 5th, and the pitcher will bat. Be a second chance for Lackey to try and advance a runner with a bunt, something he could not do back in the bottom of the 2nd inning. Cubs have had a leadoff man aboard in 4 of their 5 innings at the plate. No sign of a bunt on the first pitch. We'll see if that holds true as Lackey wants to make sure exactly he is on the same page with his manager Joe Madden and his third base coach Gary Jones.
Are you not stunned they're not bunting him here?
If for no other reason to work on it in a game situation. Look, Joe Madden's forgotten more baseball than Oliver knows. Lackey strikes out, but I mean, if indeed Lackey finds himself as part of the rotation in the postseason, it'd be nice to practice that a couple of times before the postseason comes around. Is he going to let him swing it away in a postseason game?
Not a chance.
Not a chance.
Unless Joe Madden feels like maybe a 4-2 lead against the Reds is really an 8-2 lead.
That's right. Well, you know, maybe somebody might say, well, you know, suppose he comes up in that situation with 1 out, and maybe you think about letting him swing away in a couple of weeks from now. Unlikely that would happen, but you never know. Pretty unpredictable is Joe Madden, and he just proved it. Fouled away again. 1 ball and 2 strikes on Fowler.
You know, I know Michael Lorenzen probably looking for a ground ball to get himself out of the inning with a double play, but the Cubs really aren't a team that does that very much. In fact, they've grounded into the 3rd fewest ground ball double plays of anybody in the league behind the Padres and the Nats. And Fowler, he's really hard to get doubled up. He's only hit into 3 of them all year long.
High Hot smash. Whoa, look what I found with Votto. He gets one. They're not going to double up Fowler. That is some kind of play by Votto.
Wow.
And that was with a runner standing almost directly in front of him so as to block his vision of that hot smash.
And he comes up and throws a perfect strike to Peraza, covered.
So runners on the corners, 2 away now for Bryant. Powerful Cub batter, 37 home runs, 97 batted in. Just short of a 300 hitter on the season. Runners at first and third, and Lorenzen trying to keep it at a 2-run deficit for his team. We're in the bottom of the 5th inning. Chicago a 4-2 lead, and it's fouled away again. 30 foul balls tonight by the Chicago Cub offense. And think how many of those have occurred with 2 strikes in an at-bat, and how many additional pitches they have forced the pitcher on the mound to throw. 30 foul balls. Lorenzen just balked.
Well, Lorenzen saying, why? What do you mean?
Because his catcher stood up. He thought the catcher called timeout. That's not what Barnhart was telling him to do. And that's what Michael, you can read his lips. I thought it was timeout.
Yeah. Well, Barnhart jumped up because the runner took off to second base. Fowler started, he was halfway to second base, and Barnhart may have been getting up on his haunches so that he could perhaps prepare a throw. Now, the only thing that Brian Price might say is that, well, did the batter cause the balk? Because if the batter caused the balk, it's not a balk.
Great point.
And Lorenzen stops right there. Let's take a look at Bryant right here. Does he do something to cause the balk right here? There goes the runner. And Barnhart is calling time at the same time he jumps up. Bryant moves as well. I don't know. That's a judgment call on the part of the umpire, but the batter cannot cause the balk. Evidently, he was not judged to do so.
All right, that makes it a 5-2 ball game. You understand that's a perfectly natural reaction for Michael Lorenzen on the mound when you see your catcher stand up and throw his hands in the air as if to say the catcher or someone had called time. But it did look like he threw those hands in the air and got up out of his crouch before Bryant moved.
How about Bryant? Does he move before Barnhart? Barnhart jumps up, and then Bryant takes his hand off the bat in an attempt to call timeout, but Lorenzen was the first one to fall.
With a flare, the shortstop will go out to get it, and that will end the inning. But a balk brings in a run for the Cubbies. They lead by 3 at the end of 5. Night of this season, the Reds will take on these Cubbies. And why not come on down for as low as $13? Our last post-game fireworks show presented by Adams Recovery Center. For tickets, call 513-381-REDS or visit reds.com. Well, the Reds are down 5-2 as they bat here in the top of the 6th inning. It'll be 3, 4, and 5 in the batting order. Joey Votto to start things against Lackey. Over 2,500 career innings pitched for John Lackey. There's a fly ball into left field. And look, I think we all universally agree, and we've talked about it before. I think that some out there, will make the argument a pitcher doesn't have anything to do with him getting a win. That would be preposterous. But it doesn't have everything to do with him getting a win. Some luck involved, multiple other things that have to come together to win a Major League Baseball game. We're aware of that. But when you've been around as long as Lackey, and you've thrown the number of innings, quality innings that he has thrown, it's not by just luck that you're closing in on 180 career wins. There's a fly ball to center field. There has to be something to the fact that the guy's got pretty good stuff. He's obviously been extremely durable. Only 1 year in his career did he miss with an injury when he had Tommy John surgery.
And that was an interesting year, because he had written in his contract with the Boston Red Sox that if he misses time with the Tommy John injury, that he would play the following year for $500,000. And that was the year he was traded to the St. Louis Cardinals. And it was last year that he played for the Cardinals for $500,000, which was right at the league minimum. So a kid coming up out of AAA was making the same money exactly that John Lackey made last year. Now, of course, the Cardinals were asked over and over again, are you going to renegotiate the contract and give him more of a market rate? And they didn't. And he ended up coming over here and signing a multi-year deal with the Cubs.
And, Lackey's never come out and said it. Some feel that the reason he did not stay in St. Louis, they wanted him to come back. It was in part because they didn't redo his deal. We talked to some of the Cardinals people off the record internally. And they said to us, well, when was the last time a player got hurt and redid his deal? Where we don't pay him that kind of money when he's unable to play. That's back to the mound, and that will end the inning. So Lackey has gone 12 in a row retired since a double by Votto in the 3rd.
Weekend's local football action with the Tri-State Tailgate. Jeff Pecoro and Tony Pike will preview the big games in the area from the pros and college. An all-new Tri-State Tailgate presented by Columbia Hyundai and Genesis debuts tomorrow at 6 right here on Fox Sports Ohio.
Cubbies will bat against Lorenzen on for his second inning of work. He allowed 1 run, 1 hit, walked a batter, struck out a batter. He balked in a run in the 5th inning. Robert Stevenson, 3 1/3 innings, 8 hits, 4 runs, walked 2, 1 intentionally, hit a batter. McGill got an out, allowed a hit. And now Lorenzen. He started off Rizzo, so 3, 4, and 5 in the Chicago batting order. And a 3-hopper down to VOTTO. He'll wave off Lorenzen, and that takes care of Rizzo. A 1-for-4 game thus far. There's so many people to thank. Chris, you mentioned it earlier. Tonight will be my last telecast of Reds baseball here in 2017, and I'm just, first and foremost, thanks to God to be able to sit here tonight, and I don't say that in any way, shape, or form tongue-in-cheek after having vocal cord surgery early in the summer. But boy, to be able to work with and for so many who have been unbelievably supportive, and they're great each and every year, but I can't thank them even more so than this year. Over with the Cincinnati Reds, as always, it starts with Bob Castellini and the entire ownership group. Bill Castellini, who pretty much runs the operations day to day. Karen Forgas. All of their incredible support through all of this. The Williams family as well. The Reds PR staff. Thank Rob Butcher and Jamie Ramsey, Larry Herms, their entire staff for all the hard work they do the entire season. Their interns that they've had there. Traveling secretary Gary Wayhoff, an unbelievable job. He's the best I've ever been around. And Rick Stowe. We go on the road, and it's not like going through an airport, but you got other people handling your bags just like you do if you're going through a regular airport. There are other people that are doing that job. Rick and his staff are part of that. Thank them for everything. Fox Sports Ohio, Francois McGillicuddy. General Manager Tom Farmer. Executive Producer Bob Pennell. And 2 members of their staff that were so helpful during this season, Kate Zelasco in Media Relations, and Leah Herman, who work side by side with Francois McGillicuddy. So many members of our crew. Our unbelievably talented producer Josh Hall. Yeoman's work when you're doing 145 games as a producer for a team that's not playing well.
But he comes up with something interesting every night.
Every day.
I mean, every open that we talk about, he plans.
Just does such
and all the little nuggets that you get,
That's
most
right.
of them anyway. You come up with a lot of them.
Our directors, Roy Alfers, Brian Hunterman, Brian Filippetti. Our associate producers, we mentioned earlier tonight, Matt Sigafus, Kevin Pennewitt, Lauren White's been with us a number of years now, and Jim Mueller. I mean, our entire crew in Cincinnati. I've known so many of those guys since I worked at Channel 5 back in the mid-1980s. And we're so fortunate and so blessed to have all those guys still going strong as different parts of our television crew. Jesse Jackson, all his great work. Jim Strickler up in the booth, and our statistician for most of the year, Joe Luckham. But Chris, I really want to thank the other announcers this year, because everybody's kind of had to pick up the slack a little bit. I thank my dad. I thank Jim Kelch. George Grand has worked more this year than he planned on. Jim Day, I know that you and Jim Kelch, I'm not going to say had your lives turned upside down. It was a great privilege to have a chance to sit up here, as it is for me, and do this job. But, it's not what you were expecting to do when the season began. And, Chris, no one has been more impacted by my absence than you have been. You've been an incredible professional, an incredible friend, and I'm honored to call you friend and partner. So thank you for everything this year.
Boy, Tom, thank you very much for saying that. I appreciate it. You know, I was never really worried about you. I really thought that throughout the whole vocal cord issue that you had, that you were going to come through, and you certainly have. And you've handled it very well, and you treat people well around you, and I can see why you've been so successful in this business. So it's been great being your partner and your friend.
And moving forward for many, many, many more years.
We hope so.
Amen to that. And of course, I always thank my wife, Polly. You're gone from home and raising the kids. Ella and Luke, my mother-in-law, Martha. It's just, thanks. It's been a great year. It's been a different year, but it's been a great year. All right, so 2 away in the inning. And here's Montero with the runners at second and third. And you know, the stuff I went through is nothing compared to the fella who we lean on every night for our headsets to sound good, for you at home to be able to hear the commentary, to hear the crack of the bat, to hear the sound of the crowd after a big moment. The guy who's really in for a battle is Jim Crow. He's our lead audio technician on each and every Reds game at home. So, Jimmy, all this other noise and everything else going on, you zero in on what you got to do. Our thoughts and prayers to you to get better soon and get you back at work. 1-2 the count on Miguel Montero. Foul ball after foul ball after foul ball. The Cubs are closing in on 40 of them.
It's like they have a team full of VOTTOs. Because VOTTO does it really as well as anybody, but there are a lot of other players on this Reds team that do. Now tonight might just be an unusual night from that respect. I don't know if there's a way to track that or not. Ethan Cooperson can find it if there is a way, if it's out there anywhere on the internet. But
you mean average number of foul balls?
Yeah.
The average number of foul balls. The umpires prepare 6 dozen balls, 72 balls for every single game. It is roughly around 40 total in a game. The Cubs have almost that many themselves.
40 total? Is that a recent article?
If this is right.
Because nowadays, anytime a ball is put into play, they throw a new ball in it.
I'm talking about just balls that are hitting the stands.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I apologize. I don't mean the ones they throw out.
Oh, okay.
Be a 2-run single for Miguel Montero for a guy having a really, really poor offensive year. He has had a huge night tonight. 3 hits and now 3 runs batted in.
Well, I guess Joe Madden knew what he was doing by allowing John Lackey to swing away in his last at bat, first and second, nobody out anyway. It was a 4-2 game then. It is a 7-2 game now. I think they're going to get Lorenzen out of there because they don't want to burn him up for any of the games coming up this weekend in Milwaukee. He's a pitcher that pitches normally when the Reds are in the lead.
Oh, Chicago here tonight. Really, it's been this way all season long when the Reds have played them. Day's hottest sports topics, undisputed. Skip and Shannon. 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 a.m. Pacific. Only on FS1. Cubs have outscored the Reds this season 123-55.
Can you read a stat? I guess it was the dinner that Josh Hall brought it up. Where the Cubs have scored more runs against the Reds than the Reds have had hits against the Cubs. That's the kind of year it's been between these two teams. And it wasn't all that long ago that the Reds were just dominating the Cubs year after year after year. So the Cubs have scored 123 runs against the Reds this year, and the Reds have 113 hits against the Cubs. You need a little alchemy if you're Brian Price to win these games with that kind of number.
Well, you know, you hope here what will be the start of the final 3 series of the year for the Reds does not turn out the way this series is going. We'll talk more about that in a minute, because I know, Chris, you have some thoughts about, you know, the Reds moving forward in that manager seat. Honda game summary. Cubs jumped on Robert Stevenson in the first inning. They didn't knock the cover off the ball. They got a couple of infield hits around a hit batter, the first batter of the game. The Reds would tie it in the top of the second inning. They got a double by Steve Selski to score SCHEBLER. And then Selski would score on a 2-out single by Peraza with a go-ahead run thrown out at the plate. And ever since then, all Chicago. Fowler broke a tie or gave a 2-run lead in the 4th inning. Montero has driven in 3 runs on 3 hits. There's still a ways to go, 2/3 of the way through it. And Chicago scoring in each inning with the exception of number 2. Somebody asked me to follow up that thing about foul balls. There was a fellow that actually went and did a study of it in minor league games. You're wondering, he stuck around for 166 innings, 20 games. Okay? There were 400 foul balls that went in the stands. That's an average per inning of a little more than 2, less than 2.5 per inning, total inning. So you multiply 9 times 2, you're getting around 20 for each team. So a 40 total in a game. Pull to the right side. 1 out. Tell you what, Lackey has really put it together. The Reds scored the 2 runs on 3 hits in the second inning. He allowed a 1-out double to VOTTO in the third. Nary a Red has reached since then. 13 straight set down by Lackey.
Well, he's had a good run. The last 7 starts, 2-1, 2.3 earned run average. You know, but this year he hasn't fared well at all against the Reds. I mean, he really has struggled against the Reds. Earned run average over 6 in 2016. Maybe that DL stint that he made at the end of July was more of a little rest up than anything else. You know, your arm starts to bark, your team has a big lead. They don't need you really that much down the stretch. They've got plenty of arms. So they put him on the DL and he gets a little bit of extra energy when he finally does get back on the active list. That earned run average we were talking about, 6.38.
Yep. He has only thrown 4 pitches in this game where a batter swung and missed at a pitch. 4 in the whole game. He has 2 strikeouts, but he has had outstanding command with everything.
You know, I said at the beginning of the game, and I didn't mean it to be a throwaway line, but it can sound like it is. I really believe that John Lackey simply plays the percentages. That he throws a lot of first pitch fastballs right down the middle. Not thigh high, but high, just in a good zone. But he comes right after you. And if a guy hits a solo home run, he hits a solo home run. But that's usually a rally killer. But he gets ahead of a lot of hitters that way, and he gets a lot of pop-ups that way, and he gets a lot of easy outs that way. So, you know, even the best hitters are going to make out 7 out of 10 times, right?
That's exactly right.
So he has played the percentages with these pitches, and this night it's worked out better than ever. Of course, now he's beginning, 3rd time through the lineup, he's beginning to throw more breaking balls, dropping his arm angle every once in a while, throw that 2-seamer.
Lackey is a guy in his career that has given up more hits than innings pitched. Not a lot more, roughly about the same number. Extraordinarily so, in fact. He's thrown closing in on 2,700 career innings, and he's allowed 2,687 hits. 30 more hits than innings pitched in his career. And his strikeout to walk ratio, 3-to-1 almost. So it's not like some absurd number where he's getting a ton of strikeouts. He has over 2,100 in his career.
He's been a bona fide fly ball pitcher really most of his career. No better really than this year. He's dialed in right now.
He is really dialed in right now. 14 straight retired by Lackey. Up on Fox. The Cubbies take on the Cardinals. Huge weekend series. MLB on Fox begins Saturday, 12:30 Eastern on Fox, or watch live on Fox Sports Go. 7th inning stretch, of course, all that started over on the south side of Chicago by Harry Carey. He did not know they had put a hidden microphone, did Bill Veeck, inside of the radio booth, television booth, and Harry would belt out singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" all the time. Next thing he knows, he hears it on the PA system, and a star was born. Came over here to the south side, or the north side, after leaving the White Sox to become the TV voice of the Cubs, and the rest, they say, is history.
Now, that was after he had left the Cardinals.
Went to the Cardinals, main guy with the Cardinals, and was in Oakland for 1 year after he was nearly killed by an automobile that ran him over in downtown St. Louis late in the night. And there he was, man, was he something else.
He had a chance to work with him for
6 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Boy, he was something. Man, was he something. Man loved to live. I tell you what, with all of the social media going on these days, and let's be honest about it. I think, Chris, you'll be the first to admit this. You know, there was a lovability about Harry even near the end with all the mistakes, and people would make fun of so many of the mistakes. And for those of us that knew him well, you know, it kind of hurt to hear people talking about it, making fun of him, and people impersonating him and making mistakes and all those kinds of things. You know, I mean, if it ever bothered him, I never saw it. But I can tell you right now, with some of the things that are being fired on the internet, because that's the place to hate in the world now, it would be sad, and he would be bothered by that, because there is just so much negative and mean-spiritedness and cowardliness all over the internet when you don't have to put your name to it, your face to it, and say it to anybody's face. But boy, was he something. He was awesome.
You know, he once described me and my pitching motion as a guy that had an ironing board strapped to his back.
Did he really?
Yes.
That's
now,
great.
My arm was hurting, and I was just trying to get the ball to the hitter. But and I heard it myself. I was in the clubhouse because I've been taken out of the game, and they got rid of that guy that had an ironing board strapped to his back.
That is funny. That is funny.
He also called a game where we had a fight. I was pitching for the Expos against the Cubs in Montreal. We had a big brawl, and I hit Keith Moreland with a pitch, and he came charging out to the mound, and right before he got there, he dove at my feet and missed me, and he went down on the ground face first, and there was a huge pileup. And I mean, almost every player on both teams was making this big pile. They're trying to punch each other, you know, and step on each other.
Right.
And his face was just ground into the pitcher's dirt and the pitcher's rubber. And when he came up, he was bleeding. And Harry said with that, bye-bye.
That's way out of here.
You know, leave it to Bryant to ruin a good story.
That's right. For Bryant, he finished last season with 99 runs batted in. That's where he sits right now. After a 2-run home run, gives him 38 of those.
The only question on that is, would it make the streak?
I'm not sure about
I don't
that.
think he
No,
got
I
that
don't
ball.
either.
Not
No
a
way.
chance. Although,
No way.
That's good reaction time on his part.
He knows he's going to get on TV.
Absolutely.
It's a big league veteran move.
All right, so to cap the story off, Moreland gets up and he's bleeding all over his face, and Harry, without hesitation, says, well, it looks like Welsh got the best of Moreland. Of course, Keith Moreland was a middle linebacker for the University of Texas.
Right.
He's the last guy in the league I wanted chasing me around on the field.
Hey, makes you look good. That one got a piece of the umpire. 10 of Chris Bryant's 38 home runs have come against the Reds this season. 10 of 38. Wow. Hope Bill Welke is okay. He is clearly shaken up. Well, thankfully he's okay. So the Cubs with a 9-2 lead. Ollendorf facing Rizzo. Rizzo 1 for 4, had an infield hit. Scored in the 2-run first inning off Stevenson. Broken bat, pulled foul. Sounded like it. I am stunned that's not a broken bat. That had a funny sound to it.
Well, when you're Anthony Rizzo, you get the best wood out there. It was like Ken Griffey Jr. How many bats did he ever break? And they pitched him inside. Of course, he put the ball on the barrel an awful lot, too.
So 3 straight base runners to reach against Ross Ollendorf out of the Cincinnati bullpen. You know, we were starting to talk earlier about that whole playoff scenario in the National League, where if you had, 3 teams tie for the wild card spot and how that would all play out. It's never happened before. There's a pop-up in the foul ground. This should be the second out of the inning, and it is. But if it happens, man, would it be something else to watch. Now, seeding, if they all had the same record, and they being the Giants, the Mets, and the Cardinals, is determined by season series. The Cardinals, and let's remember, it was just last weekend. The Cardinals on Saturday and Sunday had wins in San Francisco. So they won the season series against the Giants. So this will be the final out of the inning. And we'll get an update from Jim Day on one of those wild card games. Also, I want to check in with Jim about Homer Bailey and find out how he's feeling today. Jim was looking into that in the clubhouse.
It's brought to you by Miller Lite. Braves, Mets, 2 outs, 2 on in the ninth. Yoenis Cespedes thinks he's got a 3-run home run, but Ender Inciarte goes up and robs him, and that ends the game. Braves hold on 4-3, a huge loss for the Mets. In fact, their 3rd loss in a row. Not the time you want to do it, because you look at the National League wild card standings, and with that loss, now San Francisco's playing tonight, a half game clear of the Mets and the Cardinals. What a way to end the game.
Wow, what an ending indeed. We told you the Cardinals lost earlier today. All right, but let's assume all 3 of those teams tied. All right, so we mentioned the Cardinals won the series 4-3 against the Giants. The Mets won their series against the Giants 4-3. The Cardinals and the Mets played 6 times, split 3-3, but the Cardinals would have a tiebreaker because they have a better record inside their own division. So that's pretty simple, all right? Giants are the low man on the totem pole. So what would happen is on Monday, October the 3rd, the day after the last regular season game, if they're all tied, the Mets would go to St. Louis. The winner of that game is the first wild card spot, okay? The loser of that game would fly all the way to San Francisco. So you'd play a game in St. Louis. The Mets or the Cardinals, whoever loses, flies to San Francisco. The winner will then turn around and fly to the city of the team that won the game on Monday. So you play it all out. Let's assume Mets beat the Cardinals. The Cardinals would fly to San Francisco. Let's assume the Giants beat the Cardinals. The Giants would fly to New York, and that would be the National League wild card game. The winner, after playing on Wednesday, as Cabrera's hit by a pitch, would fly right here to Wrigley Field and start a series on Friday night.
With a mighty depleted pitching staff.
Yes. It's interesting that you actually get the dibs on what you want to do when you have all those tiebreakers in your favor. You know, you have a choice. The Cardinals, for example, right now, they would have the scenario of where they got to pick. Now, it's never come to this. There have been some close calls through the years, but every team that has been in the Cardinals' position has opted in case they had it. 2 chances to get in. You host the first game and play the second game on the road. Or you say we get 1 home game and you got to win that game or you're done. Those are choices you can make on whether you want to play home or road against the team that you would be playing. It used to be they did that stuff by a coin flip. They don't do that anymore. Liner into right field, be caught. You know, you bring up a great point because you look at the Mets. Theoretically possible, they would decide that their pitching rotation is just so thin. DeGrom's done for the year. How much does Max give you? They'd rather play maybe just 1 tiebreaker game instead of burning both Syndergaard and Cologne to get to the playoffs, because they would get to pick. So we'll see how it all plays out. What we know today is they all 3 had identical records going into play. 2 of the 3 have lost. The other starts shortly. Giants v. Dodgers. In fact, they're already underway. Dodgers are winning 5-2 in the 2nd inning. Nice pickup by Bryant. And the Cubs turn it over. Cubs are showing off why they're going for their 97th win here tonight. They're doing it all.
On a force play like that at first base, it's the back of the glove, because that's what the umpire normally hears when the ball hits and the foot hits. on a tag-up play, on a sacrifice fly situation, it's when it hits any part of the glove first. It doesn't have to go into the back of the glove, and thereby you avoid that situation where an outfielder actually bobbles the ball and the runner leaves early. Just thought I'd throw that in for you.
It's interesting. Very interesting. And I'm out. Well, Reds fans, catch all the action Saturday, October the 1st for as low as $13. Reds take on the Cubbies, and thanks to Butterbee's American Grill on that Saturday, the second to last day of the year. The first 25,000 fans receive a Team Cincinnati t-shirt. Call 513-381-REDS and get on board for the final 3 of the year at Great American Ballpark. Yasiel Puig, a 3-run home run in a 5-run Dodger first inning.
This is Mike Montgomery to come in to pitch against VOTTO.
Ball down the left field line and out of play.
Montgomery was recently acquired. He has been with the Cubs now for, I guess, 12 games, 5 starts. They expect him to be on the postseason roster because they don't have a lot of left-handers down there. They've got Chapman, of course, as a closer. They've got Travis Wood down there, and Mike Montgomery would be a nice guy that could also come in. I think this is a situation where Joe Maddon's taking a look at him as one of those short relievers. Come in to face one hitter.
Two and two on Joey Votto. What you were talking about,
That's
Chris.
an incredible number.
Yep. All his numbers are incredible.
I mean, but 18 at-bats against left-handers. I would say half of those at-bats have come against left-handers who are brought in with a specific purpose to get him out.
And just in time at the bat is Baez, and the Reds are gone in the 8th. Cubs are rolling. Minutes before the start of every game on Fox Sports Ohio. All you need to know for that night's game. Reds Live, presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. Reds will have an off day tomorrow. And they will open a series with Reds Live beginning at 7:30 on Friday night in Milwaukee. It's a good matchup there in game one. Anthony DeSclafani against the guy who's been the Milwaukee ace this year, and Zach Davies. So we invite you to join us on Friday night. A couple of changes for the Reds. Joey Votto's night is over. Taking over at first base will be Ivan De Jesus Jr. And you just saw a shot on the mound of the new Reds pitcher. Chicago native, but from the south side of town.
One of the best ever interviews that Jim Day did.
No doubt.
In this ballpark was when Tony Cingrani was a rookie, I believe, and Jim interviewed his father, a dyed-in-the-wool South Sider who never came up to this part of town no matter what. And boy, oh boy, it was really something.
And said as much. Said, I would never set foot in this ballpark if my son were not pitching here today. Jim Day, I know you recall that.
Indeed. If you close your eyes, Tony Cingrani's father sounds a lot like Chris Sabo.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a great comparison.
I wouldn't be caught dead in this place if my kid wasn't on the mound.
And that's exactly what he said to you.
Exactly what he said.
Hey, you know, I was talking earlier, and when we walked through the clubhouse before the game today, saw you over talking to Homer Bailey, and you were reporting yesterday about his bullpen session, and I think you talked about it on Reds Live tonight, but that's a long time ago. I mean, that's almost 4 hours ago. What is the latest, Jim, on Homer Bailey?
He threw that bullpen yesterday, said he felt great. They were waiting to see how he felt today. He said he felt fine, no problems whatsoever. The Reds have a TBA as far as starting pitching goes on Sunday.
Right.
And they have not closed the door for that to perhaps be Homer Bailey. Brandon Finnegan also in that mix. Tim Adelman could pitch Sunday because they have the off day tomorrow. They can move him up. So they have yet to make that decision. They said they need to put their heads together tomorrow and come up with a plan. If Homer cannot go this weekend, one thing Brian Price did say is that they don't want to throw Homer in the last series of the season against the Cubs just to get him one start. They want to get him 2 starts.
All right, but Jim, when you're down there talking to him, and look, your relationship with him is well known, well documented. And you know what's the term I'm looking for? The body language of Homer Bailey. You've been around him enough, talked to him enough to know. Do you gather that he feels like it's something that he really hopes he get a chance to do? Or, look, Homer Bailey's never been a guy to shy away from taking the ball. He's always taken the ball when he's been healthy to take it. But, you know, would it make more sense to just say, hey, look, let's get him ready for next year? Did you gather any information just from the body language?
It's hard to read Homer, to be honest with you, but I guarantee you that he wants the baseball and to throw again. Now, whether or not it's going to do him any good, fly ball center field. Whether it does him any good going towards next season, that's for others to decide rather than me. If it's just you're asking me, I would think I would shut him down and look towards the offseason, but that's just me. But I guarantee you Homer wants the ball.
I don't think there's any doubt about it. I know Jim Day will remain on that story throughout the entire weekend, even the off day tomorrow. Probably touch base with Homer sometime during the day, and he'll have you ready to go Friday night. Infield in. And a foul ball out of play by Montgomery, who's getting a chance, a rare chance to bat. Well, he's got to be loving this, doesn't he? Getting a chance to hit.
This is usually Travis Wood that is the hitting pitcher, designated pitcher that is a hitter for the Cubs. Well, he came over from the American League, and he looks like it.
Well, now Jim Day is standing by, along with the guys back in Cincinnati, for Reds Live, which is coming up next on Fox Sports Ohio, brought to you by Performance Kings Honda. I'm sure Jim will be checking in on Brandon Phillips after fouling that ball off his leg. Very early in this game, it was scary for a few minutes there, because Brandon was clearly hurting, but he stayed in the game. Well, I bet that thing is swollen like a golf ball sitting underneath it, don't you think? Jim will check all that out. Should be the final out here in the 8th inning, and it is. So the Reds will bat for the final time here at Wrigley Field in 2016 when we come back. By Kroger. Stop by your neighborhood Kroger to save big store-wide. Great food, low prices at Cincinnati's own Kroger. And by Toyota for over 30 offers. Visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. So we have arrived. Top of the 9th inning. Montgomery still out there on the mound. Cubs have activity in their bullpen with a 9-2 lead here in the 9th. Adam Duvall to lead things off. And a liner into left field. It'll fall in, a base hit. Brandon looks at a fastball, strike one. So the Reds have 3 series remaining. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. in Milwaukee. They'll play 4 games in St. Louis next week. Well, those will be big games for the Cardinals, to say the least. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then they'll get back very late and play the final 3 games of this 2016 season at home against the Chicago Cubs. Well, at least those games, when you get to St. Louis, partner, there'll be a lot on the line there for the home team.
Well, they show up in bunches in St. Louis. Yep. They always do. And there's still a little bit of an edge, I think, between the teams in the eyes of some of the fans, not necessarily among the players. But it's a fun place to play because they are into their baseball. And they've got a reason to be year in and year out. This time of year, they're playing for something.
And of course, it's a Cincinnatian who pretty much runs that entire operation. He has spent part of his life, of course, in St. Louis, but almost his entire adult life is a very successful businessman, obviously, in Cincinnati, and Bill DeWitt. He and Bob Castellini go back a long, long time and a long ways together. They get one, and that's all they're going to get. SCHEBLER runs very well, and that had an odd sort of look to it anyway. Not sure if that ball took a funny hop on ZOBRIST or he couldn't find the handle. So Joe Maddon's going to make a pitching change in a 9-2 game with 2 outs in the 9th. So we'll take a break and back with more in a moment. Chicago Cubs bullpen is a Cincinnati born and raised young fellow named Joe Smith. He's had a nice major league career.
Well, he's from Batavia. He went to Amelia High School. Then he went on to Wright State University up in Dayton. The Mets got him in the 3rd round of 2006. And you're right. He's a guy that he's a survivor type. I mean, he's changed his arm angles to be able to get hitters out.
Now, he also has a very famous wife. She is from Ohio University, I might add.
Okay.
Allie LaForce, for those of you that follow, we have a lot of SEC football fans. She is the lead sideline reporter with Vern Lundquist and Gary Danielson, CBS's #1 team. Very talented young lady. That's the kind of woman one day she'll be hosting the Today Show, something like that. And Joe can raise the kids and have all the fun.
He's smarter than he looks.
Amen. 0-2. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. The Reds are swept in a 3-game series by the Cubbies, who win their 97th game of the year. Final of 9-2. We're back with more in just a moment.